My fiancée pretended to be close with my sister, just to get her secrets. Then she leaked them to her boss. Told her it was a test of loyalty. I only found out when my sister lost her job. When I asked why, my fiancée smiled and said, she never deserved that title anyway. She kept smiling, until she saw who was standing behind me. The engagement party had been perfect 3 months ago, filled with congratulations and champagne toasts that echoed through the downtown hotel ballroom. Isabella moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her arm linked with mine as we accepted well wishes from family and friends. My sister Olivia had flown in from Seattle specifically for the celebration, taking time off from her demanding position as senior marketing director at Northwind Technologies, one of the most prestigious tech firms on the West Coast. What struck me as remarkable during those first weeks following our engagement was how naturally Isabella and Olivia seemed to bond. They would spend hours on video calls, sharing stories about their childhood experiences, discussing career challenges, and even planning surprise elements for our upcoming wedding. Isabella would often mention these conversations to me with genuine enthusiasm, describing how much she admired Olivia's professional accomplishments and her ability to navigate the competitive tech industry as a woman in leadership. The relationship between them blossomed with surprising speed. Isabella began reaching out to Olivia almost daily, sometimes calling her during lunch breaks or sending thoughtful text messages about work situations. She positioned herself as someone who truly understood the pressures Olivia faced, having worked in corporate environments herself before transitioning to freelance consulting. Their conversations often stretched late into the evening, covering everything from office politics to strategic planning for major client presentations. During family dinners, Isabella would bring up specific details from their private conversations, demonstrating an impressive memory for the challenges Olivia encountered at Northwind Technologies. She knew about the difficult relationship Olivia had with certain board members, the internal competition for the upcoming vice president position, and even confidential details about product launches that were months away from public announcement. Isabella seemed genuinely invested in Olivia's success, offering advice and emotional support during particularly stressful weeks. The level of trust between them reached depths that honestly surprised me. Olivia began sharing information about corporate restructuring plans, budget allocations for the next fiscal year, and even preliminary details about a revolutionary software platform that Northwind was developing in partnership with several major automotive manufacturers. Isabella listened with rapt attention, asking thoughtful questions and providing encouragement during moments when Olivia expressed doubt about her ability to secure the promotion she had been working toward for nearly 2 years. What made their connection seem so authentic was Isabella's apparent vulnerability in return. She shared stories about her own professional struggles, discussed her concerns about fitting into our family dynamic, and even revealed insecurities about our upcoming marriage. This reciprocal intimacy created an atmosphere where Olivia felt comfortable discussing aspects of her work life that she had never shared with anyone else in our family, including sensitive details about competitor analysis and strategic partnerships that were still in negotiation phases. The turning point came when Olivia mentioned that she was being considered for a position that would put her in charge of the entire West Coast marketing division. The role would represent a significant leap in her career, potentially doubling her salary and establishing her as one of the youngest executives in the company's history. Isabella celebrated this news with genuine excitement, immediately beginning to help Olivia prepare for the interview process by conducting practice sessions and providing feedback on presentation materials. During these preparation sessions, Isabella demonstrated an almost uncanny understanding of corporate psychology and strategic thinking. She would ask probing questions about Northwind's competitive landscape, encourage Olivia to think critically about potential challenges the company might face in the coming years, and even suggest talking points that could distinguish Olivia from other candidates. The depth of her engagement in this process convinced both Olivia and me that Isabella was truly committed to supporting our family's success. However, there were subtle moments that should have raised red flags, though they seemed insignificant at the time. Isabella would sometimes steer conversations toward specific topics, asking detailed questions about particular projects or requesting clarification about timelines for product development. She had an unusual interest in the technical specifications of the automotive software platform, despite claiming to have limited background in technology. These curiosities appeared to stem from genuine interest rather than any ulterior motive, especially given her consistent emotional support for Olivia throughout the entire period. The weeks leading up to Olivia's final interview were filled with intensive preparation and growing excitement about the possibilities that lay ahead. Isabella had become such an integral part of this process that Olivia frequently mentioned feeling grateful to have gained not just a future sister-in-law, but a true confidant and ally. The foundation of trust between them seemed unshakable, built on months of consistent communication, shared vulnerabilities, and mutual support through both professional and personal challenges. The revelation began to unfold on a Tuesday morning in early March when Olivia called me with panic evident in her voice. She had arrived at Northwind Technologies to find a termination letter waiting on her desk, citing violations of confidentiality agreements and inappropriate disclosure of proprietary information to external parties. The accusations were specific and damning, referencing detailed knowledge of projects and strategic plans that only a handful of senior executives should have possessed. According to the documentation presented by Northwind's legal department, someone had been systematically feeding confidential information to Meridian Solutions, a direct competitor that had recently secured several major contracts that Northwind had been pursuing for months. The leaked information included technical specifications for the automotive software platform, detailed budget projections, and even internal assessments of competitor weaknesses that had been discussed only in executive-level meetings. The timing of these leaks corresponded precisely with the period when Olivia had been sharing professional details with Isabella, though this connection was not immediately apparent to either of us. The information that had been compromised was exactly the type of material that Olivia had discussed during their late-night conversations, including specifics about partnership negotiations and product development timelines that she had mentioned while seeking advice about her promotion prospects. What made the situation particularly devastating was the surgical precision with which the leaked information had been used. Meridian Solutions had been able to undercut Northwind's proposals with strategic accuracy, offering services at price points that suggested intimate knowledge of Northwind's cost structures and profit margins. They had also managed to approach potential clients with solutions that directly addressed concerns and preferences that Northwind had identified through months of market research. The investigation conducted by Northwind's security team revealed digital footprints that traced back to communications originating from Isabella's consulting business. Her company, which specialized in competitive intelligence and market analysis, had apparently been contracted by Meridian Solutions to provide insights into Northwind's strategic planning and operational capabilities. The sophistication of this arrangement suggested that Isabella had been cultivating her relationship with Olivia from the very beginning with this specific objective in mind. When confronted with this evidence during the termination meeting, Olivia was completely blindsided by the implications. She had never suspected that her conversations with Isabella were being used for corporate espionage, particularly given the personal nature of many of their discussions and the emotional support Isabella had provided during challenging periods. The betrayal felt both professional and deeply personal, representing a violation of family trust that extended far beyond workplace considerations. The legal ramifications for Olivia were severe and immediate. Northwind Technologies initiated proceedings to recover damages related to lost contracts and compromised intellectual property, potentially exposing her to financial liability that could have destroyed her career and personal finances. The company also filed complaints with industry organizations that could have resulted in professional sanctions preventing her from working in similar positions throughout the technology sector. Isabella's response when initially confronted about these allegations was to express shock and confusion, claiming that she had no knowledge of how her business relationships might have been connected to the information Olivia had shared. She suggested that the timing might be coincidental and that corporate investigations often resulted in false accusations when companies were looking for scapegoats to explain competitive losses. However, further investigation revealed that Isabella's consulting contract with Meridian Solutions had been negotiated and signed just 2 weeks after our engagement party, suggesting a level of premeditation that made her expressions of innocence increasingly difficult to believe. The contract specifically mentioned providing insights into Northwind Technologies' strategic planning processes and competitive vulnerabilities, with performance bonuses tied to the successful acquisition of contracts that Northwind had been pursuing. The most disturbing aspect of this discovery was realizing how expertly Isabella had manipulated the emotional dynamics of her relationship with Olivia. She had identified exactly the right combination of professional admiration, personal vulnerability, and family loyalty needed to encourage Olivia to share information that she would never have disclosed under normal circumstances. The psychological sophistication of this manipulation suggested experience with similar operations, raising questions about whether our family had been specifically targeted or whether this was part of a broader pattern of corporate espionage. As the investigation deepened, additional evidence emerged showing that Isabella had been recording many of her conversations with Olivia creating a comprehensive archive of confidential information that had been systematically organized and analyzed before being passed along to Meridian Solutions. The recordings captured not only professional details, but also personal information about family relationships, financial situations, and career aspirations that could have been used for additional manipulation if the initial operation had not been successful. The scope of the betrayal extended beyond simple information gathering to include active psychological manipulation designed to maximize the value of the intelligence being collected. Isabella had encouraged Olivia to pursue certain career opportunities specifically because they would provide access to more sensitive information, and had even provided strategic advice that was designed to position Olivia in situations where she would be exposed to details about upcoming projects and partnerships. The morning I decided to confront Isabella about the evidence connecting her to Olivia's termination marked a turning point that would forever change my understanding of the person I had planned to marry. I arrived at her apartment with copies of the documentation that Northwind's legal team had provided, including communication logs, contract details, and recorded conversations that painted an undeniable picture of systematic corporate espionage orchestrated through manipulation of family relationships. Isabella answered the door with her usual confident demeanor, greeting me with a smile that seemed genuine until she noticed the manila folder in my hands and the expression on my face. The shift in her body language was subtle but unmistakable, a slight tension in her shoulders, and a calculated pause before inviting me inside that suggested she was already preparing for a conversation she had been anticipating. When I presented the evidence and asked for an explanation, Isabella's initial response was to maintain her innocence while simultaneously attempting to minimize the significance of what had occurred. She claimed that her business relationship with Meridian Solutions was completely separate from her personal relationship with Olivia, and that any information sharing had been purely coincidental rather than intentional corporate espionage. However, as I continued to present specific details from the investigation, including timestamps that showed precise correlation between her conversations with Olivia and subsequent intelligence reports delivered to Meridian Solutions, Isabella's defensive strategy began to evolve. She stopped denying the basic facts of what had happened and instead began justifying her actions as necessary business practices in a competitive corporate environment. The conversation took a disturbing turn when Isabella began expressing her true opinions about Olivia's professional capabilities and character. She suggested that Olivia had been naive to share confidential information so freely, and that someone with better judgment would never have been manipulated so easily. This victim-blaming approach revealed a coldness and calculating nature that I had never seen before during our entire relationship. What shocked me most was Isabella's complete lack of remorse for the personal betrayal involved in her actions. She seemed genuinely puzzled by my emotional reaction to her manipulation of family relationships, treating the entire situation as a straightforward business transaction that had unfortunately resulted in complications. Her ability to compartmentalize the personal and professional aspects of what she had done suggested a level of emotional detachment that was deeply unsettling. When I asked directly whether she had ever felt genuine affection for Olivia or whether their entire relationship had been fabricated for the purpose of gathering intelligence, Isabella paused thoughtfully before responding with brutal honesty. She explained that while she had found Olivia pleasant enough to spend time with, every interaction had been strategically designed to achieve specific information-gathering objectives rather than build authentic personal connections. The most chilling moment of our conversation came when Isabella described her actions as a test of loyalty, not to our relationship or family, but to her professional obligations and business partnerships. She explained that maintaining her reputation in the competitive intelligence industry required demonstrating capabilities that sometimes involved personal sacrifices and difficult ethical choices. When I expressed disbelief that she could justify destroying someone's career and financial security for a business contract, Isabella's response revealed the depth of her moral flexibility. She suggested that Olivia's termination was ultimately the result of poor professional judgment rather than successful manipulation, and that anyone working in a sensitive position should have been more careful about protecting confidential information. The conversation reached its breaking point when Isabella made the comment that would forever define my understanding of who she really was. After listening to my expressions of anger and disappointment, she looked at me with a slight smile and said that Olivia never deserved the title or position she had held anyway, and that her termination had simply accelerated an outcome that would have occurred eventually due to her lack of strategic thinking. This comment revealed not only Isabella's complete lack of empathy for the harm she had caused, but also her genuine belief that she had been justified in orchestrating Olivia's professional destruction. The casual cruelty of dismissing years of hard work and professional achievement as undeserved demonstrated a level of arrogance and moral bankruptcy that made continuing our relationship impossible. What happened next would transform this personal confrontation into something far more significant and consequential than either of us had anticipated. As Isabella continued to smile with satisfaction at her assessment of Olivia's professional worthiness, she suddenly noticed a change in my expression that made her turn around to see what had captured my attention behind her. Standing in the doorway of Isabella's apartment was Detective Mason Rodriguez from the Seattle Police Department's White-Collar Crime Division, accompanied by Agent Olivia Chun from the FBI's Corporate Fraud Task Force. They had been conducting a months-long investigation into Isabella's consulting business and its connections to a network of industrial espionage operations that extended far beyond the Northwind Technologies case. The timing of their arrival was not coincidental. I had contacted law enforcement 3 days earlier after discovering evidence that Isabella's activities with Olivia were part of a much larger pattern of corporate espionage targeting technology companies throughout the Pacific Northwest. The investigation had revealed that Isabella's business model involved systematically infiltrating personal and professional networks to gather confidential information for competing organizations. Detective Rodriguez explained that Isabella had been under surveillance for several months as part of an investigation into corporate intelligence operations that had caused millions of dollars in damages to technology companies across multiple states. Her consulting business served as a front for sophisticated espionage activities that violated numerous federal laws related to corporate fraud, wire fraud, and computer crimes. The evidence against Isabella was overwhelming and meticulously documented. Federal investigators had been monitoring her communications with Meridian Solutions and several other competing firms, creating a comprehensive record of information transfers, payment structures, and strategic coordination that demonstrated the systematic nature of her criminal activities. The Northwind case was just one example in a pattern of similar operations targeting executives and employees with access to valuable proprietary information. What made Isabella's operation particularly sophisticated was her psychological profiling of potential targets and her ability to identify individuals who could be manipulated through personal relationships and emotional connections. She had developed detailed psychological profiles of dozens of technology industry professionals, analyzing their personal vulnerabilities, family relationships, and career aspirations to determine the most effective approaches for gathering intelligence. The investigation revealed that Isabella had been operating similar schemes with at least 12 other individuals over the past 3 years, generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in consulting fees while causing career destruction and financial hardship for numerous innocent professionals. Her methods involved extensive research into target companies and their employees, followed by carefully orchestrated relationship building designed to maximize information gathering opportunities. Agent Chun explained that the federal charges against Isabella would likely result in a prison sentence of 15 to 20 years, given the scope of her criminal activities and the financial damages caused to multiple corporations. The charges included conspiracy to commit corporate espionage, wire fraud, computer fraud, and racketeering, with additional charges pending as the investigation continued to uncover evidence of other operations. The arrest that followed was swift and professional, with Isabella finally losing her composure as the reality of her situation became clear. Her previous confidence and emotional detachment disappeared as she realized that her criminal activities had been under federal investigation for months, and that her arrest was the culmination of extensive evidence gathering rather than a reaction to the Northwind incident alone. For Olivia, the revelation that she had been the victim of a sophisticated criminal operation rather than simply poor judgment and trusting a family member provided some measure of vindication, though it could not immediately restore her career or repair the financial damage she had suffered. Northwind Technologies agreed to settle their legal claims against her once the criminal nature of the information theft became clear, and she was eventually able to secure a position with another technology company that understood the circumstances of her termination. The broader investigation revealed connections between Isabella's operation and similar criminal networks operating throughout the country, leading to additional arrests and prosecutions that helped protect other potential victims from similar schemes. The case became a significant precedent for federal prosecution of corporate espionage operations that used personal relationships as vectors for information gathering. Isabella was ultimately sentenced to 18 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to multiple felony charges in exchange for cooperation with ongoing investigations into other criminal networks. Her consulting business was permanently shuttered, and she was ordered to pay restitution exceeding $2 million to the companies and individuals who had been harmed by her activities. The experience fundamentally changed my understanding of trust, relationships, and the potential for deception in even the most intimate personal connections. It also highlighted the sophisticated nature of modern corporate espionage operations and the vulnerability of individuals who possess valuable professional information to manipulation by skilled criminals. The case received significant media attention and led to changes in corporate security protocols at technology companies throughout the region, including enhanced training for employees about protecting confidential information and recognizing potential social engineering attempts. It also resulted in stronger federal legislation regarding corporate espionage and the use of personal relationships in criminal intelligence gathering operations. For our family, the resolution of the case provided justice, but could not entirely repair the damage that had been done to trust and relationships. The experience served as a powerful reminder of the importance of carefully evaluating the motivations and backgrounds of individuals who seek to become closely involved in personal and professional aspects of our lives, particularly when they demonstrate unusual interest in confidential or sensitive information. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day, and trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.